Welcome everybody back to Forza Horizon 5, and once again we're in online A-Class street racing, and today we're dealing with the 2021 BMW M3 competition sedan. So this is a bit of an overhaul, especially in terms of the bodywork and the amount of power that it's got going on, but I wouldn't say it's the most ridiculous kind of car that we've had on this series of online races that we've done, but as you can see it's all fairly good in terms of its stats, with the braking and the top speed being particularly good. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's outstanding in any particular one area. It just seems to be very good in a lot of them, while the amount of power and torque that it's got is, yeah, although not the most, it's certainly the most that we've had in a car, I believe, that is controllable and yeah, reasonably competitive. So yeah, by no means the most that we've had. You know, like of a Nissan Safari Turbo, for instance, had what, like 800 horsepower, something like this, that, but this has nowhere near that level amount of power. But it's a amount of power that is controllable. So it now has 550 horsepower and 524 pounds-feet of torque, so that's 47 extra horsepower and 45 extra pounds-feet of torque from a now 3.4 litre twin turbocharged inline 6, so it's gone up about 400 cc's in terms of its engine. So yeah, and the only engine upgrades we've given it are a race ignition and a race engine block. So nothing massive to give it that extra 47 horsepower, but it's definitely enough to make a difference in terms of its acceleration and speed, although not a huge difference, but a difference regardless. It's definitely faster in a straight line than it was originally, which is useful for a point-to-point circuit like this, which is quite high speed. You'll notice it's got a different rear bumper, different front bumper, new side skirts and a rear spoiler, and they're all apparently additional M parts that you can put on a car in real life as well as in this game. So it's nice that they've included those. I think the car looks better with them, so it looks more visually interesting without being ugly like the standard car does look like. Oh dear. Well, at least we didn't go off like the other car did, but yeah, those bridges are very treacherous, and I really do not see the point in having them destructible barriers, especially in online competitive racing. But still, 7th place was decent, especially considering we didn't really get the chance to break through the pack. Only the Ford Mustang eventually got across ahead of us, but then again it has a way more power than we do, even in stock form. So yeah, we don't weigh a huge amount of difference less than we did originally. We now weigh 3,739 pounds, which is only 75 pounds less than standard, so we're still quite a weighty car, and therefore we're still going to have some of the issues that come with having such a large amount of weight, chief among which are obviously braking and yeah, controllability under heavy cornering. But still, it's not a huge amount of weight. We have obviously had more weighty cars on this series of online races that we've done, and yeah, therefore it's reasonably controllable. And at the end of the day, it is a modern car, so as heavy as it is, it does have other elements to it that help make up for that. With neck I do 0 to 60 in 3.478 seconds and 0 to 100 in 7.347 seconds. So yeah, not a massive difference in acceleration time there, as a standard car could do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. So we're only marginally quicker, and 0 to 100 originally in 7.587 seconds. So we're only about 0.2 of a second quicker to 100. But we can do now 199 miles an hour instead of 194, so that is a decent increase. But yeah, because obviously this car was already comfortably in A class to start with, we haven't had the most amount of PI to play with, unfortunately. So yeah, I definitely would have liked it to have been lighter, which will ultimately made this a quicker car in terms of acceleration, and it would have been able to make more use of the additional power. But still, it's by no means a slow car, although off the line it is not the best. Renault really wants to get past us. At the end of the day, you will not owed the inside line from whoever's in front of you. Defending is perfectly okay and sportsmanlike. This happens in actual races, it should happen online as well. We need to learn that. I do hope with the new Forza Motorsport, which, as much as I have critical elements to that game from first impressions, I do hope it at least makes people better drivers when it comes to online racing. It looks like it's trying to promote that kind of thing as much as possible, which is only ever a good thing. I just feel like it's sapping the fun out of the kind of online racing and the campaign racing that you can have, or we have had in previous Forza games. I don't see the fun in a game that is all about the same kind of class cars, where the only real difference is the bodywork and maybe the paint job that it's had. That's just no fun to me. Yeah, that seems to be a lot of ways that it's going, whereas in previous Forza games you could have random cars against each other. Like just in this game you can have random cars against one another, and it can make for really fun online racing. I have proven with many a car that I have driven on these online races to that effect. I've driven EVs, I've driven a Nissan Ferrari Turbo, I've driven all sorts of weird kind of cars that you might not necessarily expect to be in racing. And here alone we've had an M3, two different kind of M3s against a Renault Megane and a McLaren and a Honda S2000, even a Ford Mustang, or two. So yeah, that's just the kind of varied racing that I feel works best for a game like this, or even Forza Motorsport. So it just seems like they're taking that away in a large way, to be honest. And highly doubt you're going to find any car on that game that can only do 90 or 80 miles an hour. Every car in the game that I've seen so far seems to be a car that can do in excess of 100 miles an hour. Majority of them seem to be able to do more than 150. And yeah, you got a lot of your normal, hypercars that can do 200 mile an hour plus. Whereas with this, you've got cars that can, barely even crack 60. And yet, I've had some fun races with those in championship events on the single player game. So, it feels like they're trying to compete with more sim-based, hardcore sim-based games like iRacing and Assetto Corsa and even Gran Turismo 7. And I've never played a Forza Motorsport game because they've ever tried to emulate those kind of games. If you know what I mean. I've never sought out a Forza Motorsport game because they've tried to be like those games. If I wanted those kind of games, I'd, you know, seek out those kind of games, but I'm not. Which is why I haven't. So, yeah. I hope I'm not right. I hope I'm just being overly pessimistic and the like, but combine, you know, the more focus on series racing and to hell with any kind of fun, and the fact that, you know, we've not even got more cars than we've had in, say, Forza Motorsport 7, then yeah, it just feels like a step back rather than a step forward, like it should be for a new game on a new console. So, well, relatively new console to say, but you know what I mean. It's the first Forza Motorsport on this Xbox Series X, and yeah, it feels something like Forza Motorsport 5, where they were putting it on a new console, didn't really know what to do with the kind of game on a new console, so they just did the bare minimum with the amount of cars. Sorry for ranting, I just really want to get that off my chest, but yeah. Still, I'm not entirely expecting to abandon this game, even when the new Forza Motorsport comes out, because at the end of the day there are a lot of cars I've still wanted to try out on Extreme Off-Road Silly Builds. And yeah, since the base game of Forza Motorsport is lacking a couple of tracks that I would like, you know, we don't have the Nürburgring, for instance, which I really enjoy driving any kind of weird cars around, although again, looking at the car list, we're not going to have that many kind of odd cars to drive around such a track. That might not even be a series that can really go ahead. Oh dear. Went way too wide on that corner. Yeah, I guess we'll just see what happens as when it comes. I just hope my fears aren't realised, because I don't want the game to be bad. I've been looking forward to a new Forza Motorsport game ever since, you know, the 7th one had, you know, basically had the support pulled for it after, you know, this game came out, or even Forza Horizon 4 came out, I think, after that one. So, yeah, I don't want it to be a bad game whatsoever. But I do want it to be a good game, at least, and I'm worried that it won't be. But still, another 7th place there. We're not done particularly well in this car. I don't think I've really showed off its best side. So we're going to try out 3 more races, I feel. But that depends whether or not the lobby is going to be full enough. If it's only going to be a few other drivers, then I won't bother. But nonetheless, let's take a look and see what this car can do in 3 more races. Yeah. So let's take a look. So one thing this car does have on its side is the fact that the brakes are excellent. They are race brakes now, and that's why the stat is so high. And so onto that, we've got the likes of a race flywheel to make the engine rev more freely. The lighter the flywheel, the quicker the engine can rev. It's also got race springs, race and dampers, as well as race anti-roll bars front and rear. Also got race driveline to help decrease the weight, as well as wider tyres up front and rear. The only thing it doesn't really have is, you know, new tread to the tyres. It's not got race, you know, it's not got slick tyres or sport tyres or whatever. But because the tyres are wider, they are at least have more tread using the standard tyres, which is still decent enough. You know, it's far from the worst handling car that we've ever used on one of these online races. So yeah. Not sure whether or not the additional bodywork also helps it out or not. Pretty sure the new side skirts decrease the drag, which obviously helps the top speed. Weight is 53% front, 47% rear, so it's reasonably balanced. And yeah, I feel like the torque is enough to get the car going, but it's not overwhelming the rear tyres, because yeah, at the end of the day we are rear wheel drive only, and that can be a little bit of an issue at times. are we in a good lobby or not? Nothing worse than being in a lobby that only has 2 or 3 other people. The more the merrier as far as I'm concerned. What do we got? Yeah, that's decent. We've got a couple of Ferrari F40s, near 20-year-old Lancer MR, McLaren's 570S, Eclipse GSX. Eclipse are actually returning back into the Forza Motorsport series. They're one of the single car makers that are reappearing in the Forza Motorsport series. The car list overall looks decent, it's just a shame that there's not more of it. There are a few cars that I am excited that are returning. It looks like we're going to have the original Aston Martin Vanquish from the James Bond film Die Another Day. Awful film, but at least it showed off a great car. Yeah, missed that car for a very long time. I've had that for a good few games now. So I'm glad that's making a return. Because, yeah, as shoddy as the flappy paddle gearbox was reportedly as bad as it was back in the day, yeah, it's a great looking car. It's got a fair, decent whack of power from a gigantic V12, so yeah, looking forward to driving that again. That's the only major, yeah, well, there are a couple of our Aston Martins that are a bit of a standout, but again, they're not cars that we haven't had for a while. We have had them in previous Forza games, but I'm glad they're returning regardless, like the Vantage V600 from the 90s, which is a spectacular kind of car, you know, twin supercharged V8. Then we got the original 60s DBS from the James Bond film On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was also in Forza Horizon 4, which again I'm looking forward to having. It's a glorious looking car and I love the engine in it. Not sure if we've got the Vantage from the 70s, nor am I sure if we've got the 80s Vantage, which was also used in a Bond film. But regardless, Aston Martin does look like it has a few cars being added, a few more cars than usual added to the game, which is always a great thing. But I'm afraid there's not really any new cars to the Forza series that are standing out for me, to be honest. If any. A lot of the new cars to the series just seem to be racing cars. I've not seen any road cars that are new to the series. You know, I was quite frankly expecting, you know, like sort of a Toyota GR Yaris or something like that, but we've not even had something like that, which I imagine has been highly, highly requested by many people on the forums. So whether or not that's the kind of thing that's going to be added in via the car pass or not, we'll have to see. But even so, they showed off the first few cars in the car pass on one of the videos on YouTube, and there was only one road car out of those first few cars. And I think it was a road car that we've had in this game recently, so yeah, I think it was one of the BMWs in fact that we're either going to have in the festival playlist soon or we already have, and yeah, just feels like again rehashing the kind of stuff that we've seen before. That's the one thing that has always annoyed me about the Forza series, is that new cars will be added to a game and then you'll either not see them in a future game, or they'll be added via some other means like barn finds or car pass or the festival playlist. It won't be just in the base game from standard there on in, which has always annoyed me. I mean, the barn finds in this game, for instance, really annoyed me. They were way worse than the previous game. We had at least 3, 4, or maybe even 5 cars that we've had in base games in the auto show or just to buy outright that were just barn finds for some reason, and it just baffled me. It made no sense for those to be barn finds. So yeah, that's just the always one thing that's annoyed me. And I know this is coming across a bit of a ranty kind of video, but it's just the kind of things I've always wanted to just, you know, say and get out there, that these are the things that are annoying me, these are the things that are worrying me, these are the things that I'm excited by. I'm certainly excited by, with new Forza Motorsport, all the new tracks that are being added that we've never had before. Although, to be honest, they're not tracks that I've ever heard of. because I'm not really into motorsport all that much, which I know is ironic playing a Forza motorsport game, but it's just been about the racing and the cars more than, you know, necessarily the competition and, you know, all the racetracks that we kind of have in like racing, real world racing. I am liking the fact that they are introducing some EVs though into the Forza Motorsport series. We have the X-Pen coming, which should be fun to drive around some tracks. But again, there don't seem to be many of them in the game. Certainly not as many as this game. Which is, yeah, had a huge number of EVs added to the game. And I've only enjoyed most of them, to be fair. The only one that I haven't enjoyed, or maybe two that I haven't enjoyed, has been the BMW iX, just because of how ugly it is, although it did prove pretty formidably quick on extreme off-road silly builds, and the Jaguar I-Pace purely because it's a car that isn't able to be in competition because it's broken, and yet they've still not fixed it for some reason. So even though I do kind of like the car, I just haven't really been able to give it enough of a chance, especially online racing, to really get a feel for it. Which is a shame. What's the point in having a car in the game if you're not going to be able to use it at some point? I think the same issue is with the Riser Tachyon as well, which has also been broken for a while apparently. Again, it's not able to be used. I think the only issue is with them is that you can put the drift gearbox in them, and that for some reason makes them more competitive and breaks the PI or whatever on it. But if that's the case, then just take the drift gearbox away, option away. I don't see the point. How hard that is surely is to do in an update. Oh no, we hit the curb. This is another thing I hate about this game. Wall collisions don't make any sense. I clearly hit that wall and it wasn't advantageous to me whatsoever, and yet I get a penalty. Penalty on a penalty. Effectively, which just makes no sense to me. Hopefully that's not the kind of thing that is in the new Forza Motorsport game. Because if it's clear that you've hit a wall and you've not gained any advantage whatsoever, I mean I stopped dead for Christ's sake, then yeah, surely that shouldn't affect me with, you know, a penalty, but apparently it does. So yeah, still in 5th place for the championship overall, but yeah, that wasn't particularly great, especially that last corner, but just slightly hit a curb and that set us off balance for the rest of the corner, which put us wide, and then we hit the wall. It's as simple as that, quite frankly. So yeah, we do have at least a few more cars to enjoy in this game before the new Forza Motorsport comes out. We have the Rivian RS1, is it, or R1S? I forget. I always forget with that car which way round the letters and the numbers come. R1S, yeah. Which is basically the SUV version of the R1T. Which, yeah, I'm looking forward to. I know it's got the same power and torque and whatnot of the R1T, but I think it looks better. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what it can do in comparison to that car, given the different kind of weight balance that it's going to have on it with all of that extra bodywork at the back. And then we've obviously got, I think, a couple more BMWs to come as well. One of which I'm still not sure about in terms of the looks. and another EV as well, which I'm looking forward to trying out. You can see i4, basically an electric saloon, so I think we can technically say we've had an all-electric saloon on this game yet, because most of the EVs that we've had on this game are either SUVs or crossovers or pickup trucks, so yeah, it'd be interesting to have the first normal kind of, you know, saloon kind of car, you know, rather than the same kind of bodywork shape being represented again and again and again, basically. There are plenty of other EVs I'd love to have in a Forza game. The Honda E, for instance. I think that'd be amazing to have, especially since it's rear-wheel drive only and looks amazing. And then you got your Hyundai Ioniq 6, 5, whichever one it is, the one that looks futuristic, like it should be on Cyberpunk or something. That'd be good. I'm not best at remembering the names for these EVs, but I want them regardless, because I think most of the time they look pretty good, and you can have some serious levels of horsepower at times as well. Well, we're doing better this race. Trying to not jinx it though. Yeah, the torque in this does really help get us up hills. It's one thing we usually have an issue with on this game, the cars that we pick. Well, at least we're getting to the top 5 at least. Ferrari F50 at least, one of them I think. Or did another one crash as well? Yes, he did. Another F40 crash and the Lancer quit out. Don't know why. Just because you have one accident doesn't mean you're going to have an accident in the next race or with the rest of the race. It's always worth ploughing on, I find. That should keep us in 5th place in the championship overall though. No, we're drone level with the other Ferrari F40 for some reason. Or does that technically mean we bumped all the way up? I'm not sure. Maybe because someone quit out. I'm not entirely sure how that works. Alright, I think we've got one last race and then we'll end it there. I hope you've enjoyed me ranting endlessly, but you know, I love racing games, even though I'm not a massive fan of, you know, competition in general. Like, yeah, that was the last one, so we'll just quit out and just talk a little bit more. So yeah, I love racing games, even though I'm not a massive fan of competition. I'm never really too fussed about losing in a race, although I do mind when I've been cheated out of a win or a certain position. That's what annoys me more than anything. So I'm hoping the new Forza Motorsport game does encourage better driving and better drivers. Certainly does seem to be going in that direction. It's just a shame really that we don't have the kind of cars I like to drive for the most part, by the looks of what the car list is at the moment. But you know, there is a car pass that is going to have like 32 cars in it. There is going to be, you know, basically a festival playlist throughout the game per month as well, when more cars and more tracks are added. So I'm hoping that those will add some of the more oddball cars to the game, but I'm not got a massive amount of hope in that regard. But still, this M3 is fairly decent. It's not the most competitive vehicle, as you've probably seen, but I feel like it's a reasonably balanced car in terms of its handling, its power, its acceleration, and yeah, general drivability. So it's overall good, and yeah, I do like the look of it a little bit more with all of the extra bodywork we've given it. But yeah, still has a problem with those gopping grills. Nonetheless though, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!